Well, welcome to our third installment of Raising Adults, where we are learning to parent with the end in mind. My name is Heath, Bryant, and I'm the family pastor here at First Orlando. And today is one of the most important days of VBS week because kids have heard the gospel today very clearly. And they learned that Jesus died, rose again, and that changes everything. Today, I'm joined by Sarah Deck. She's our elementary director, and Sarah and her husband, Corey, serve faithfully here at First Orlando. She's the mom of two amazing kids, and she may be the only person on our staff who can both explain the gospel and the latest Taylor Swift album with equal enthusiasm.
And I am very proud of that.
Absolutely. We might have even gone to a Taylor Swift concert together at one point, our families.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's awesome. So now for those of you who don't know, Sarah is a serious Swiftie.
I sure am. Like Heath said, we have been to a Taylor Swift concert together, which was not planned. It was the craziest mix of people I think I could have pictured going to a Taylor Swift concert together with, but it was amazing. Like such a cool story, something fun to think back at. And yes, we're just a house full of Swifties.
That's absolutely. Not only were we there together, we were like literally on the same row.
Yeah.
So, and it was one or two people there, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
It was kind of crazy. So that is awesome. So, and just to make things a little bit stranger, she can also walk on her hands. Like,
yes.
Wow. How did you get that skill?
Well, I did gymnastics as a kid, but also feels like I'm in a really great spot if I can walk on my hands and be in kids ministry.
I
it's like my party trick with any age kids,
absolutely.
And they're like, they're in.
They're totally bought in, 100%, absolutely. None of this has anything to do with today's topic, right? But I do feel parents deserve to know this about you. So that's absolutely awesome. So all joking aside, one of the reasons I wanted Sarah to be with us today is because she does an incredible job helping kids understand the gospel clearly. And here's the thing that I've noticed about parents. Often we as parents get really nervous about salvation conversations. What would you say, Sarah, to parents who feel unqualified?
Yeah, I think the first thing I would say is that God gave you your kids to parent.
Amen.
And,
that's good.
You're qualified, and God is working in your kid. There's so many influences that they have, from small group leaders to people who are even just serving for a week at VBS. And so there's so many influences that are speaking into your kid. So he's already working in them, and he chose you to be the person to have those conversations outside of those places when they have questions. So, and I think really listening. Right. Listening more than feeling like you have to have the answers, because
that's so good.
We don't always have the answers right away, especially with all of their curiosity. And I think the other part of that is encouraging all of their curiosity and saying, you know what, let's talk about that later. If I don't know it right away, we can circle back to that.
And that's so healthy. It's so good to see that journey. That's great. One of the things I hear from parents all the time is, what if I say the wrong thing? Like they're afraid they're going to mess up this salvation conversation. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think, one, I affirm that pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that we feel as parents, especially in today's culture, to do all of the right things all of the time for our kids. And all of those right things are constantly changing. And we're always feeling like we're just a little bit behind. So I think what I would say is that pressure is so normal. And you can just release yourself from the expectations of perfection that you might feel in that moment. That's
such a good word. Such a good word. And I think one of the things that I just want parents to hear is, honestly, you can't mess this up. I mean, it's not that this conversation isn't important, or all these spiritual conversations aren't important, because they absolutely are. But your child's eternity doesn't rest on your ability to perfectly answer every single question.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. He loves your child even more than you do. So he's been pursuing them for a long time, and good. You have been doing the work of bringing them to places and positioning them in places where he can continue to do that work. And he's going to keep pursuing them long after you're the one bringing them to those places.
That's great. And, the reality is we don't have to be the Holy Spirit. Our job isn't to convince them. It's not to pressure them.
Yeah.
And your job, again, isn't to have all the answers. It's just simply to listen, love, point them towards Jesus, and keep the conversation going. It may not just be one conversation. And honestly, sometimes that's even better if it's conversations over time. Every kid is so different, right?
Yeah, it's so true. I think even with my own kids, we have conversations about things so many times because there are questions that in the moment I have to just stop and say, I don't know if I'm equipped to answer that. Let's go back to that later so I can really help you and affirm your curiosity and affirm that you're asking these questions. But my second grader wanted to get baptized, and she kept asking about it, and we just kept asking more questions. We're like, we can ask some really curious questions back to her about what the why is behind wanting to be baptized, what she specifically has learned. And even those conversations were so fulfilling because that is how faith develops when we get to have those conversations together.
Absolutely. And establishing early on that you are the safe place as a parent to come have those conversations, that's just going to have big dividends, not just for now, but in the future, especially as I move into middle school, high school, and some of those,
for sure,
those ages. And so, I've heard it said sometimes discipleship is like trying to open a stubborn jar. One person tries to open it, nothing. The second person tries, still nothing. The third person tries, nothing. And then finally someone opens it and everybody says, wow, that person's really strong. But the truth is they may not have been the strongest person. That fourth person may not have been. They may have simply been the fourth person to try because the lid had been getting loosened the entire time.
Right. That is such a great picture of how God works in our lives, in especially the spiritual aspect of who we are and who he is growing our kids to be. Like it's us having conversations as parents with our kids. It could be a parent and a grandparent conversation. It could be a VBS leader that they're only with for 1 week that they might not ever see again.
Right.
It could be a small group leader. It could be a friend at school. It could be a cousin. And sometimes God allows us to see those moments so that we know that we're not alone in raising our kids and having those really impactful moments of their faith, because God did create us to be in community together.
I love that. And it's really cool, like just understanding that, we're all just part of that loosening the lid kind of deal. And we never know when that jar is going to open, as you said. And but when it does, man, it is so great. I'll never forget when my oldest daughter came to know Christ. We'd had conversation after conversation. And suddenly in the middle of a communion service at our church, she saw images from the Passion of the Christ on the screen. And in that moment, she looked at me and said, Daddy, did Jesus bleed? Did he really bleed? And I'm like, wow, okay, so this is the moment where this is connecting for her, right? Yeah. And so we just sat down in the middle of a communion service and shared the gospel and was able to have that conversation with her. And it was really impactful and powerful for me. But you just never know. That lid, that's when her jar opened, right? Yeah. And so it's really, really cool. But our job isn't to save our children. Only Jesus can do that. So as parents, let's just keep faithfully pointing them towards Jesus, towards trusting God. And then ultimately we trust God with the results. We are loosening the lids. So some questions you guys can ask as parents, I would say, is what does it mean that Jesus defeated sin and death? Why did Jesus have to die? What do you think it means to follow Jesus personally? And then lastly, what stood out to you most today?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think it's such a helpful guide for parents to have questions like these that we can start with, knowing that from some of these key questions, they might have some really powerful answers or follow-up questions about what they learned. I think the goal for us for the kids team perspective is we want you to know that we're available to you. We want you to know that we're here for you. And we're always willing to help you navigate those questions with your kids. But we're also just praying that after today, there are so many incredible conversations you get to have with your kids just by affirming their curiosity, continuing to ask them questions about what they learned that day, and praying for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you ask those questions, be mindful of how you ask them. I really encourage you to do open-ended type questions, not leading questions. So often we can unintentionally answer the question for them. So the types of questions that we presented today allows them to allows you as a parent to get to the bottom of like where they are and where their heart is and where their mind is and how they're thinking. And that's where that listening piece comes in. So great word today, Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And, today might become part of your child's story forever. So don't underestimate what God can do through simple conversations tonight. And with that, see you tomorrow on Raising Adults. And remember, God didn't give us kids to raise children. He gave us kids to raise adults. We'll see you tomorrow.